This is the Brighter Web Podcast, insights on growing a small business using the latest technology and marketing best practices. I'm your host, Robert Carnes, joined by my co-host, Mickey Mellon.
Hey, it's good to be here, Robert. Excited to dig into this one with you.
I am too. Another exciting topic on digital marketing and specifically website maintenance.
I was going to say, I wouldn't call that an exciting topic. It's an important topic, but it's not exciting at all, but crucial in a lot of ways.
It's exciting if we make it exciting.
There you go. All right, let's make it exciting then.
So let's talk a little bit about website maintenance and what you specifically mean by when we use that term.
So it'll depend on what your website's built on. Most of our clients are on WordPress, and so there's different types of maintenance for different sites. But basically, it's keeping your content management system up to date with security patches, keeping it backed up, running malware scans, that thing. Just making sure everything's running smooth and securely and quickly.
Well, you really brought the tone down a little bit, but it is true that this isn't the most exciting thing to think about. The front end of the website and the content is what's exciting. It's what people see. This is the back end of stuff. This is the backstage, if you will, of your website, making sure that it's running technically sound. But why is that still really important? Give us some reasons why people should actually care about keeping their website maintained properly.
Yep. So a big one is your site can get hacked if you don't, especially with a content management platform like WordPress that's so popular. Hackers are trying all the time to hack into WordPress sites. And so keeping it updated can help prevent it from getting hacked. And getting hacked is not like what most people think. A lot of times, if you get hacked, you may see the skull and crossbones or whatever come up on the site, but most hacks these days are quiet behind the scenes, and Google will notice it and start unranking you and that stuff, but your users may not ever see it, and it'll still just devastate your business.
And we actually noticed a site like that this morning.
We did.
From a fellow website developer who we looked at the code and dug into the back end and saw some very inappropriate stuff that a hacker had dropped in there for
Exactly,
them.
and there was nothing on the front end, so no one visiting the site will see it, but Google will see those things. And the idea there, the reason for that is the hacker is trying to legitimize their site, even if they're very, very shady sites like these were. Their hope is that Google will say, hey, this is a legitimate agency, and they're linking over to our shady site, thereby giving our shady site more credibility and hurting the credibility of the agency. So it's over time, that'll be very, very bad for their search appearance for the agency unless they get it fixed.
Yeah, so there definitely are hackers out there, and we definitely want to avoid that by keeping everything updated. But what are some other reasons why website maintenance is important?
And some of these do tie back into hacking again. If your site gets hacked or if you don't keep it up to date at all, it could crash. Different reasons for a crash and different remedies for it. We won't get too much into that, but certainly you don't want your site going down. For any updates will help prevent that. A challenge can be like with WordPress sites. If you have a plugin that has an important security update, it may require that you have the current version of WordPress as well. And if you haven't been updating that, it could lead to a long day. So if you just keep things tuned up and fresh, it helps that stuff go a lot smoother. This can also slow down your site, again, depending on the situation. Sites that load quickly are better for everyone, and not being updated and or getting hacked can cause some slowdowns.
And we know that Google really cares about your website speed. It wants to send people to websites that are going to load quickly and cleanly. So what's a good website speed, and how can somebody check to make sure that theirs is actually up to speed?
Yep. So a good website speed is a hard number to put on it. Under 2 seconds is generally considered fast, but you can feel when you go to a site, does it pop right up or does it not? You can check it yourself though at sites like GT Metrics. That's letters GT and then METRIX. It's a free website speed checker, and it'll not only tell you how fast it loads, it'll tell you what's slowing it down, if you have images that are too large, if you've been hacked, what's going on that causes it to not load as quickly as it should.
And then the last reason to care about website maintenance is, like we alluded to before, you're less likely to show up on search engines like Google.
Right. If you get hacked or if your site's super slow, then yes, that will impact you showing up there. And the speed doesn't matter as much to Google. It is a factor, and it's certainly something to keep an eye on. But if you're hacked, Google will delist you pretty quickly, and they'll delist you quickly, and when you fix it, they'll relist you slowly. So it'll take a little while to get back into their good graces.
So it behooves you to be proactive about this and not get hacked and not let this become a problem.
That's a good plan. Yeah, I like that.
So now that people are amped up and excited about website maintenance, now that they know that it really is something important, and it's not something that takes a ton of time in the long run, but it's slow incremental things over time. What are some of those steps? What are some of the things important that people need to keep in mind with updating their website?
Yeah, really 4 main areas we like to look at. The first is backups. Just keep as many backups as you can. There's never too many backups, basically. Your hosting company probably has backups, which is fantastic. We always like to keep a separate set of backups from them for a few reasons. One is, if the host were to crash completely or something went bad with them, your site is down and your backups are down and you're in a bad spot. So we keep them separate. The other reason we like to keep them separate is if we need to fix a site, if the site has been hacked or has something go sideways, we want a backup in our hand as quick as we can. And some hosts, you got to reach out to support, and it could maybe take a little while to get that going. I want to be able to just grab one right now and get it fixed so we can get a site fixed. And every minute matters when a website's down. So the faster we can get it fixed, the better. The next piece we look at for keeping things updated is literally keeping things updated. In the case of WordPress, you have 3 different pieces to look at. There's WordPress itself, which as of this recording just had a big update, but as of whenever you're listening to it, probably just had a big update. So there's that. You probably have 6 to 50 plugins on your site, hopefully toward the lower end of that, but they have updates that come out constantly, and you want to keep those up to date fairly regularly. You don't have to do them all every day necessarily, but keeping them up and understanding what's urgent there and what's not is important. And then in most cases, you want to keep an eye on your themes too. Whatever WordPress theme you have probably has updates, and you got to be a little more cautious with, because depending how your site was built, there may be customizations in those theme files, and when you update it, your site will look a lot different than you want it to. It shouldn't be built that way. That's a whole deeper conversation, but keeping your themes up to date helps a lot too. Those are really the 2 pieces to keeping it updated, but then there's 2 other pieces to just keep an eye on things. One of those is just scanning your site for malware, because even if you do everything right, there's a chance you get infected. So we have a couple different tools we use for malware scanning. There's a lot of great free ones out there, WordFence and iTheme Security and other ones for WordPress. If you're on other platforms, there's tools for that to scan. Related, we always connect our sites with Google Search Console. If Google does see a problem with your site and they're going to delist you, they're not going to call you or email you and let you know what's going on. They're just going to publish it to your Google Search Console account and say, hey, here's the problem we see. So if you have not set up your account or you don't have notifications set up, you'll never see that message from Google. And if Google has anything to say about any of our sites, we want to know about it, good or bad, and react appropriately. And then the last piece is just general uptime monitoring. If the site crashes, I want to know about it before I have emails from a bunch of customers telling me about it. And again, there's free tools for that work on any platform, things like Better Uptime or Uptime Robot. That'll just check your site every few minutes, make sure it's looking good, and if not, it'll send you an email or a text or whatever. So you can jump in there and restore from it back up or clean out the malware or wait for your host to come back online or whatever the issue might be. But if you bought it first, that's a good thing.
You're probably spending a lot of time on your business's website already, but
right.
It may be 30 minutes to an hour a day. You're not constantly sitting there refreshing your
right,
website.
Exactly.
Tools like this help keep an eye on it while you're off doing other things.
And like Uptime Robot is not great, but it's free. It does a perfectly fine job, and even the paid tools for that thing are very inexpensive. We're talking $10 a month or something. Not a big deal.
It's a simple thing, but it's something that you don't have time to do constantly 24/7 yourself.
Exactly. So there's that side of things. So there's, of course, all the technical stuff, keeping your site updated and secure and all that. But the other side to keeping stuff updated sort of falls more into your realm of keeping the content updated. We've all seen sites where we go to and say, I've actually done that with a few tools. I've looked at and said, this is a great tool. They haven't posted a blog to their blog in 3 years and nothing on Twitter in 6 months. And are they even still in business? And in most cases they are. It's just hard to tell from the site. So what are some things you suggest to make sure content stays updated appropriately?
Right. This is the front stage rather
exactly.
than the back stage.
This is what
of the
people will really
things.
see. Yeah.
Yes. Like you said, it can be very visible. Unlike the hacker code on the back end, this is stuff that people are going to notice. So very obviously, you want to review your site periodically, maybe every quarter or so. Scroll through your pages, see when the last time you updated things. Notice, okay, that staff member left a couple months ago. We need to update them. And we've hired somebody else. We need to add that person. We've changed this service or the other. You want it to actually be a good reflection of your business. The content is not going to impact directly things like load time, but it will really impact the user's experience is what I mean.
Sure.
So you want to make sure that content is updated. And I think one of the little tips or tools that I would suggest is whenever possible, use evergreen language. One of the things we see most often is somebody says, hey, we've been in business for 35 years in our local community. Well, if you don't update that, if you only update that every 5 years, well, then that's going to quickly go out of style.
Right.
But if you say, we've been serving our local community since 1980, well, then that never actually changes. That's not something you have to go in there and constantly update. So using language like that can help you, making sure it's not something you have to change periodically. But at the same time, you do want to have content on there that you're updating. And a blog or something like it is something that's very helpful to do, because blogging regularly, adding fresh content to your website is something that Google does pay attention to. So notice those things. Notice if you haven't posted a blog post in a year or so, and maybe go do that. Maybe create a sustainable plan for how to regularly update content when we've got an episode on this podcast of how to do that.
Yep, for sure. And again, you have users like me that go to a site and look and say, they haven't blogged in a while, so that's a concern. But Google looks at that as well. And really, Google looks at blog posts not unlike static pages. They just say, hey, this is more content that can potentially be ranked well. And so blogging in general can help you rank better in search engines. And then I think you had one more thing you want to talk about too, is getting other people to look at your website. So tell me about that a little bit.
Right. Well, you just mentioned sometimes you will go to somebody's website and see, oh gosh, this is outdated, and gosh, they haven't taken a look at this in a while. Sometimes when you're looking at your business's website on a daily, hourly basis or whatever, a lot of those things you go blind to, right? You don't see the forest for the trees because you're just so in the weeds of your website's content. So getting somebody, either it's a new staff member or one of your customers or a trusted business advisor, to take a look at your website and just say, hey, scroll through and see what you notice, and you are business and we trust you. Tell us some things that may be broken or may be outdated. Just getting that fresh perspective, and especially somebody who's honest and will tell you some of those things that need to be changed, that really gives you a good perspective, and should happen, again, periodically, not every week or anything like that, but just on a regular enough basis where you're going to catch those things and fix them before your customers or clients do.
Yep. And I think the other thing you get from an outsider too is sometimes we'll get stuck with insider language and be saying things that most of your customers don't know. And so if you have an honest friend that can tell you, I don't understand this paragraph or I don't understand this word you used, you can put it in more consumer-friendly language and better explain what's going on, and that can help with understanding for future clients.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Awesome. Well, this was a great conversation about website maintenance, and hopefully everyone goes out there and scans their sites for malware and does all the updates right now.
Yep, there you go. At least get those backups, and that way if something does go sideways, you've got a place to fall back to. So.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Brighter Web Podcast, brought to you by Green Melon, a digital marketing agency. To help your business keep up with the latest digital marketing trends, check us out at greenmelon.com. You can also find show notes and more episodes at abrighterweb.com.